What's up, y'all? Today we've got Evan Kirkham, co-founder, CEO at Outlier, sports betting platform, hockey fanatic. We had a good conversation about sports and his business, just navigating sort of the intersection of, influence, politics, financial power. Yeah, it's a fun conversation. You guys will like this one. As a businessman, you're building a company.
Yeah.
You love playing hockey, so you're physically active, probably prioritize value, sleep and health and eating well. How are you balancing like all that stuff with having a 1-year-old and building a company?
Yeah, I really don't know that I am. I honestly, I definitely don't have like any sort of quick tip or secret for it. I'm just kind of like a grinder by nature. I mean, like, I'll give you an example. So my wife and I met in law school. I promise this is going somewhere. My wife and I met in law school. She's just like wicked smart. Would barely open the book and like just crush the test. I was the type of guy who would spend like 15 hours just like without standing up, just going through the book to basically make the same grade as her. And or to earn the same grade as her. And so like I'm just, like I said, I'm kind of a grinder by nature. So I don't know, man, just put in a lot of long hours. And I mean, if there's any real secret, like I do try to have kind of like deep work focused times. That's helpful for work. And then I'm also just like, I try, and this just goes beyond work, but I try to like really like live in the present, I guess. So like, yeah, when I'm with the baby, that's all I'm doing. And when I'm at work, that's all I'm doing. You know, I might receive like 15 texts. I won't even look at them until I've like completed my work task. So I don't know. I've been able to, I think I compartmentalize well. But yeah, I mean, there's really no secret. I'm awake a lot. So,
yeah. How many hours of sleep do you get?
It depends how well the baby's sleeping. I don't know. Like 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I honestly, so here's the sad reality though. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I can function on 5, I can function on 4 or 6, whatever. I'm honestly more of like a 9-hour guy myself. I've always been just like needing a ton of sleep.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess I have some new circadian rhythm now that the baby's here. So
yeah, you're probably just disciplined and like you want to like make sure that's all done.
Yeah,
I like 9. If I can get 10, that's like amazing.
Yeah, I'm kind of that. I want to be that way. I was that way.
Yeah. Like I'll go to bed at a reasonable hour, and then I'm just like, honestly, like the anxiety of like, holy shit, I have so much to do, just like wakes me up, and I'm like, fuck this, I'm already up. It's like I got 5-6 hours and these these coffees and protein shakes, whatever.
Yeah, and one thing that I probably wouldn't want to admit to, like, I don't even know who, my coworkers, I guess, is I do lose a ton of productivity like after 3. I mean, honestly, shamefully, probably like after noon. But like from like 8 to 11 or maybe noon, I won't even look away from my computer. I can bang out like, dozens and dozens of emails. And like, I'm pretty hyper productive from like 8 to 11. And that's where I think the majority of my work gets done for the whole day.
Dude, okay. Have you listened to Andrew Huberman's podcast?
Oh, my wife is like a total fangirl. Yeah. So yes.
Okay. So it's so funny because like, I was listening to his podcast. He's talking about work. He's like, I have like 2 work sprints where I like wake up and like I do 90-minute work sprint. Like, and I'm like, this guy works like 180 minutes a day. Like, what the fuck is that about? I work hours a day. And then actually last week I started like trying to do like 90-minute sprints where like put away my phone, like all this shit. And I segmented it in 30-minute sprints. So I'd be like, take 30, chill for 5 minutes, just relax, serve Reddit or something, then 30, then 30.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how much shit you can do in just like 100 and like just in a 90-minute sprint. It's crazy.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, just this kind of idea of like compartmentalization, deep work.
Yeah.
We were just talking, I think before we started recording, about jujitsu, and I brought up Lex Friedman because of the gym here in Austin and all that. Have
Yeah.
you listened to his? Do you listen to Lex Friedman actually?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like. He's like, yeah. He's interesting. I have my thoughts on Lex, but I like listening.
Okay. Well, the reason I bring it up is, have you listened to his episode with Walter Isaacson yet?
No.
Okay. Well, he interviews Isaacson, who just wrote the bio on Musk, and I'm sure this is in the bio on Musk, but he was saying that what Elon does, or his like superpower, is that he's like, or one of his superpowers is that he's just amazing at compartmentalization. So he'll go from worrying about like First Amendment issues for like this, 30 or 90-minute sprint, and nothing can pull him away from it. He's just like laser focused on it. And then the second he puts it down and picks up like a new issue about, I don't know, a Tesla battery, then all of a sudden he's just like so deep into the battery that it's as if the first issue had never been there. And anyway, so I think that's pretty interesting. And actually Lex asks like, is there a way to replicate that? Can I replicate that? Can anyone replicate that? And Isaacson says something to the effect of, no, nobody can replicate it. It's just innate. Like, it is just who he is. It's almost like he even goes as far as to say, like, it's almost like a disorder that he's like able to block everything else out. But anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. That makes sense. Like that's the only way that dude could have like 1 billion kids and also 3 or 4 companies that are different companies, and they're all right. Yeah. Yeah. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
How much do you get out of like biographies and like biographical data of like what successful people do?
I love, this sounds so lame, but I really love business bios. And so, I mean, yeah, I've read Jack Ma's and Steve Jobs and Phil Knight and whatever, a bunch of them. And I don't actually know, and this is maybe a comment on like my reading generally. It's really hard for me to ever like pin down the lessons that I'm getting out of a book. Like actually right now I'm reading like a World War II history. Reality is like in 6 months, I'll probably remember like 3 discrete facts from like a 900-page book, right? Like, so I don't really know what I'm retaining, but my whole reason for reading biographies is I know that it's making like an impression on me. So that's my whole philosophy with reading is I'm not going to beat myself up for not like remembering or being able to adopt the specific, I don't know, peculiarities of the person that's being of the character, but like maybe it'll impress something on me that I don't even know came from the Phil Knight book, but now I'm just like, I act differently because in that moment, it made an impression on me. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's sort of how I think about reading generally is, I'm just looking to consume things that'll make an impression, and I'm not too worried about retaining any actual lesson.
That's powerful. That's interesting. It's like sometimes I think about like how subconsciously, if you hang out with people, their norms kind of create like boundaries on like the way that you think, right?
Yes.
Simple example is like, if you grew up in New York and you live in New York City, it's like most people get married at like probably late 30s, early 40s, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
And so like the behavior of the community kind of orients you, not intentionally. You're not like, oh, all my friends, right? It's like, you're just like, oh, like people are dating, like this, it's going to happen later. Compared to Nashville and probably Texas and like cities, maybe not Austin as much, but probably still Austin, right? People get married young, like it's normal, right? And that orients the typical person down a certain pathway.
I totally agree. Yeah, surrounding yourself with like a culture and people and literature or whatever that, again, you don't really know what lesson or learning or behavior you're trying to craft, but knowing that like I want to align myself with like these business people. Therefore, I'll read their biographies.
Yeah.
And in some kind of almost unconscious, subconscious or unconscious way, I am aligning myself with them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And especially like with tech startups, I feel like there's a different scale of thinking
and
with maybe other types of businesses that, at least I found it helpful to like interface like with other tech founders and like other tech people, because it's like, okay, like they're thinking about the world a little bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in with that too.
Yeah. You don't want to get too far down the Silicon Valley, like rabbit hole, but
it's true. And you need to like, and this is something I'm trying to do. Like I have, and not like our business is, I'm sure we'll get to talk about this in a second. Not that our business is like super far along, but one problem I'm running into right now is the people that I, like if I just go to like a networking event here in Austin or something, I'm regularly around people that are actually like one or two steps like behind me with their business, which is fine. Like, I mean, that's exactly where I was 2 years ago or whatever, but I'm trying to be really intentional about finding people like at the next level, because I don't necessarily have anything, back to the discussion we were just having, I don't necessarily have any like discrete questions to ask them. So it's not like, oh, I really need to ask you, I really want your help on whatever, our go-to-market strategy. I don't have an ask, but I just want to be around you because I know that that's how I'm going to level myself up. So I've been trying to do a lot of that now where I'm like, okay, are there, groups, or like a lot of it happens organically where I'm like, oh, like I met this really cool dude and he's got a Series B company that's really crushing. Like, let's go get drinks, and like, I want to meet your friends.
No, I totally feel that. Like, you just want to be, or you want to be in the like, what do they think about? What's the scale of their thinking?
Yeah.
How they're addressing some problems. Totally. No, I feel it. You go to any entrepreneur event and it's like 90% of the people are like, I have an idea with an MVP.
Exactly. Which, hey, great. But I'm not learning a ton with that.
Yeah, totally.
Hey there, and welcome to Outlier. We're really excited for you to check out our first of its kind sports betting platform. If you're like most sports bettors, you're interested in leveraging data to make smarter bets. But what you've probably found is that it's not that easy to make data-driven sports betting decisions. It's a big win if you can find raw data related to the matchup or the particular player you're interested in betting on. It's an even greater victory if you can make sense of the data, which was likely presented in the aggregate. And it's a borderline miracle if that data gives you full context and full confidence, not just about how the team or player has performed in the past, but if the team or player will cover the particular line you're planning to bet tonight. That's where Outlier comes in.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So Outlier. So you were a securities lawyer before this.
Yeah.
So maybe you'd be interested in to kind of like talk about like your pathway to starting a tech company, getting into sports betting, like, what's interesting about that to you? I know you're an athlete, so maybe there's like some interesting things there.
An athlete, right? I do play hockey, but I don't know if I'm an athlete.
But like, I don't know, you see, like, you play sports and like you're
no, I take it seriously, but okay, appreciate that. I'm from Dallas. I'm actually from the suburbs, Flower Mound. Grew up there, did my undergrad at the University of Mississippi, learned a ton at Ole Miss. Actually, this is probably a totally separate discussion, but small town, deep South, taught me a lot about relationships and networking and like interpersonal leverage, which sounds kind of weird.
Oh, yeah.
A quick aside. So in Texas, and this is probably true in New York, I don't know if it's true in New York or whatever, but in Texas, money is power, if that makes it, or money is status, I should say.
Yes. Yes.
In Mississippi, proximity to power is status. And what I mean by that is like the most, like the highest status I guess you could probably have, like as a student at University of Mississippi, is, I'm a 10th generation Mississippian whose dad is best friends with the governor. And it doesn't matter that my dad's a mechanic. I still have all the cred because I have proximity to the governor. And so I learned a lot about like politicking and relational authority, I guess, or power. So anyway, learned a lot that and other things in Mississippi. Then I actually worked in politics because that's what that community breeds. So I worked in politics for about 3 or 4 years. During my undergrad, I spent every summer on Capitol Hill or at a lobby firm or working with Senator KBLA Hutchison from Texas. Then I took the fall of my senior year off and I raised money for Mitt Romney. We could get into politics if you want, but I'm very much like a Romney Republican.
Yeah.
Spent fall in Boston at headquarters and did a lot of fundraising for him. And then when I graduated, I moved to DC and worked for the Republican Senatorial Committee, another lobby firm and think tank. Eventually, when I got honestly pretty burned out of politics, I moved back to Dallas and went to SMU Law School. Graduated there in 2017. I worked as a securities litigator from 17 to 2020. I worked for a firm called Carrington Coleman, which is it's only 50 some odd attorneys, downtown Dallas. Really, really great litigators. They've got business too, but they're like really good litigators. So I worked with the boss who gave me a ton of opportunity. I actually got to sit at least second or maybe third chair for 4 trials, federal, state, jury, judge. I got to like take witnesses, argue motions in front of the judge, all of that, which was really great because I had always been I was a high school debater. I debated in college, like competitively. I was moot court in law school, so I was always going to be a litigator. But I did that for 3 years, and I had this kind of like existential moment where I remember specifically, I'm sitting across a table from one of our clients, and he's in the countertop business, just like installing granite countertops. Nothing I necessarily want to do, but I'm all suited up, like professional attorney, sitting at the top of this, skyscraper in downtown Dallas. Seems like I'm the guy with like in the better position. The dude walks in there with like flip-flops and t-shirt or whatever, sits down across from me, and I have this moment where I'm like, oh, like I want to be in your position. We're fighting your fight and battling your battles, and I'm just kind of like a hired mercenary. And I just didn't see where the real reward was in that. Like, it's intellectual. It can be intellectually stimulating, no doubt, but I'm fighting somebody else's fight. So I wanted to fight my own fights. And so that brings me to roughly 2019, 2020. I'm the kind of guy, like probably you are, like probably a lot of people that watch this are, that there's always having kind of startup ideas, right? Like, oh, this should exist in the world. That should exist in the world. So for a period of about maybe 6 months or a year, I was just openly posting my startup ideas on LinkedIn because my idea was, if it just stays in my head, it's just going to die on the vine. Like, what do I care if someone goes out and starts the company that I thought would be cool? Like, great, that exists in the world. So I just started posting about it openly. I was watching a Thursday night football game, and 2 kind of notoriously awful commentators were on the call. I'm a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. And I thought to myself, I'm like, dang, like a Cowboys super fan should be able to call this game, and I should be able to tune into that commentary rather than this commentary. And so I had the idea for a social sports talk app called Colorcast. I posted it on LinkedIn, and the very next morning, one of my contacts DM'd me, and he's like, hey, take that down. Let's go get lunch. That turned into the first $10,000 check, which eventually turned into $100,000. Was able to build the team, start building product, hiring, raising. And eventually and it was only probably $250,000 at this point raised. But at that point I was like, I need to be a better steward of this investor money. I'm going to quit my law job. So that's kind of what brought me into the startup space with again, the first product called Colorcast.
That's sick.
Yeah. So
that's sick. Okay. There's so much there.
Yeah, I know that was a lot, but I just got to roll it all out.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So, and then, I mean, like, if you want to, I would be super interested in hearing more about like interpersonal leverage and like how being close to power plays out. Like, so if you were to start this company in like Mississippi, how would that be different than maybe running it in Dallas or in Austin?
So I really love Mississippi. I say this kind of half-heartedly, but I don't know if I'm serious about it, but like, if there was enough industry there and enough talent there, I might still be there. The problem is Mississippi has this giant brain drain because the people who get educated and want to like be really entrepreneurial, they honestly go to Nashville, Atlanta, Dallas, or DC. So there's like this, there's this brain drain that they're trying to fix, but it's really hard. The state's obviously very, very poor. Exploring this idea of like proximity to power again. So it is something I learned in Mississippi, but I think that that it extends beyond politics. It extends beyond the South or Mississippi. To give you an example, when I was raising money for Mitt Romney, one of the biggest insights I had is about kind of the donor class. So in reality, I was like I forget what the title was, like assistant director of finance for the Midwest or whatever. And basically all that meant was I'm a glorified party planner. So I'd get one really high net worth individual in, Detroit to anchor a fundraiser. He would then, we would then talk to all the high net worth individuals in Detroit, in the surrounding area, and say, hey, if you pay $75,000, you can come to this dinner, you can listen to Mitt give a speech, you can take a picture with him, whatever, all of that. Well, what I didn't realize at the time, and I only realized after going to a few of these events, is although those individuals were pro-Mitt, pro-business, whatever, the reason they came to the event was not for Mitt. It was to sit at the table with the other dude who paid $75,000.
Interesting.
It's this idea that like kind of getting, I don't know, it's like people were willing to pay to get their network correct.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know if how much that relates, but that was another insight I had about this kind of idea of, proximity to power. And turns out that's like what the donor class is all about. I don't know. It's all like Mississippi taught me a lot of just like soft skills and I don't know, never burn a bridge, keep really, really close to all of your contacts, give more than you take. I don't know. I can spit out a bunch of other randoms.
Sometimes like driving towards an outcome, this is the way that I used to view the world. Is like, I always thought like the world was like purely meritocratic and like purely competence based. Like if you're really good, then, and I think that's true over like an infinite time horizon. Like I think that is true. Like if you're the best, you'll be the best and people will recognize that. And I do think like being a cool person and just like being helpful, like helps you like take a green shoot,
Totally.
To kind of skip some things, which maybe actually is under the umbrella of competence. Like, I don't know.
That's actually a really good point. I do think like social competence is, and like relational and situational competence, street smarts maybe, or that's probably wrong, but something to that effect is really, really powerful, but is undervalued and like under-taught. And that might be because it's really, really hard to quantify. It's easy to be like, this dude crushed his SATs. It's really hard to be like, this dude is cool,
100%. This dude is cool. I want to give his company an opportunity, and like the cooler you are, I feel like the more like runway you have to like get something right, know? Whereas like if you're not cool, even if you got a sick thing that you're selling, it's like,
people don't want to work with you or
Yeah,
that's interesting. I'm going to think about that a little more. I even see it like right now. I was just talking to a founder. I'll tell you who it is, but and we were talking about like raising in this environment, and we had raised actually kind of before the economic regime turned, but by all measures, he's outperforming was outperforming our metrics, and he is having a hard time raising. And it kind of boiled down to like, he's like, I just don't feel like I'm connecting with the investors. And it has nothing to do with the metrics. It has more to do with just like, maybe the pitch is wrong, but it's actually like deeper than that. It's not even about the pitch. It's just like, maybe they just don't connect with you as a human when you first get on the call. And that's a really important box to check.
It's the vibe. Like, be dialed. Yeah. But it's hard. I mean, I mean, I don't know if our fund would be happy with me sharing this, but like, I mean, in one of the early stages when like they went and they presented like this is what they want to do. We went to a nice dinner and then we went to like a brewery and we each all had like 6 drinks and just like had fun. There was no business discussed. It was just, we had fun, talked about random shit. And honestly, like, I was like, man, I just like these guys in any environment. And, and I hope that they felt the same way about me. Hopefully they still do. And so, that's like it's so important. I mean, it's hard to like over zoom and shit to like build that type of
Agreed.
It's just hard.
Wait, full circle on this, because I do have one more kind of Mississippi anecdote that I think brings this all together. So after my sophomore year of college, I was in DC and kind of like interviewing for internships, whatever. Stupid. I mean, I was like, what, 18?
No, you've been there. Dude.
Yeah.
I've interviewed because you're like, you want college credit, you're like,
for sure.
You need money. You're just like, I need to pad my to get a real job. Totally.
So there was this lobby firm that's in, well, let's leave it at that. There's this lobby firm who is kind of at the top of what's called like, or kind of referred to as like the Mississippi Mafia. So like Mississippi is very well represented in DC. Like you will meet so many people, and it's partly because that's where a ton of the subsidies goes. So they just they're like very overrepresented. Plus they understand how to like work there well. So anyway, all that to say, I'm 18 years old. The managing partner, who was, and this sounds like it's a bunch of nepotism, maybe it is, who graduated from Ole Miss, was at the same fraternity as me, but was like mid-late 50s. He's like, yeah, come in for an interview. Okay, here's what the interview was. So I walk in and they're like, hey, come into his office. I won't name the name again, but come into his office. Second I walk in, he has like a wet bar in his office, and all he wanted to do was, and this is how like 2 in the afternoon, all he wanted to do was slam like 4 whiskey neats with an 18-year-old and talk to me about like, oh, like give me an update on what's going on at Ole Miss. And like, so the entire interview was just a vibe check. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, man, like that's obviously the extreme where it's like the entire thing was a vibe check and there was no merit. But in some ways it's like maybe, the Mississippians definitely understand that piece.
Yeah. Maybe the vibe is the merit.
Maybe the vibe is the merit.
Maybe
it's just your ability to drink.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if I should even be telling that story, but that reminded me, like, that was a very weird experience as an 18-year-old. I'm like, okay, I did not expect, I'm coming in there with like a portfolio and all this. He's like, do you want it on the rocks or neat?
No, like, so I was actually having this conversation with Taylor and maybe like with somebody else. I don't know. But like, it's like, you look at a resume and like you, in 5 minutes of a conversation, like, okay, this person's smart. So like everything they don't know, like they'll figure out in like a month.
Totally.
And like, why do you need to go like dive into their exact skill set and what they've exactly done? Like the importance is like over 2-3 years, can you like, if there's a conflict, are they going to fucking freak out? Like if there's an agreement, can they disagree and commit easily? Or is there going to be a whole song and dance to be like, hey, you need to do this, is really important. Like, I feel like you actually pick that up and just hang it out, right? Like,
it's so true.
How they talk about their wife, like how, like all that shit is like gives you a perspective on like them as a person that is actually important, like more important than like, okay, do they know like how well do they know Python?
Yeah, all skills, baby. It's all about those all skills.
Yeah, that's sick. Okay, so Color Cast, that's the original instantiation of the business.
Correct.
It's still in the sports space. And then maybe what, 2-part question, what prompted the pivot? And then what stage are you guys at right now? Like seed stage, Series A, where are you guys at in the journey?
Yeah, I'll answer the second question first so that I don't forget it, frankly. So we're seed stage. We launched Outlier in January. We have grown it to like almost 100,000 plus users.
Sick.
We charge $20 a month. So we've gotten like pretty significant ARR fast.
Whoa,
Yep. So
100,000 users.
yeah, and those aren't all concurrent, and those aren't all subscribers. I'm just talking about like total user base over time. Yeah, so that's grown really, really fast. And now we're like, do we raise another round? Do we just like get profitable? So we're running into some of those questions, which are actually kind of fun to contemplate.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's where the business is now. Where the reason we pivoted, I'll give you like the whole pivot story because I think it's actually pretty cool, and hopefully there's some lesson in there for someone else. But yeah, we were doing about 10,500 monthly active users on Colorcast. We were doing about 500 broadcasts a week. So by all intents and like investors were very interested. They're like, oh my God, this is like growing and you guys have kind of cracked the nut on marketplace content, all that stuff. We were actually literally in the middle of raising a round, like, and it was going well, all the stuff. But me and the two co-founders had this like come to Jesus moment where we were like, okay, this is going well now. We did see some like softness in the business and we weren't quite sure how to continue to scale and all that. But our main concern was actually like the macroeconomic environment. And we had this, the thesis, which was when this economic shift that we're living in now, this new economic regime comes into being, you're not a business unless you're generating revenue. And I think that now people totally get that. But at the time, we were still in the economic regime of past, which was grow, try to figure out how to monetize. That just doesn't really exist right now, in my opinion. And we called that shift really early. And we were so convicted about it that we decided to literally hard pivot into something that would generate revenue now. We already had relationships with FanDuel, DraftKings, MGM, and Caesars because part of our contemplated monetization strategy for Colorcast was a broadcaster says, hey, this is a really great bet. We surface that bet. You take that bet. Sportsbook compensates us. So we already had relationships with the sportsbooks, and we were already ingesting and mapping their APIs. But what we found is that and this is credit to our product team, they're exceptionally good at mapping the APIs and basically pairing any given sports bet with really hyper-contextualized and visualized data that's like easy to understand, easy to use. And so we started down this road of, okay, what would it look like if we hard pivoted? And I'll save you the whole step-by-step process. There's like a very clear 4-step process to the pivot, including like literally thousands of interviews and surveys, all this sort of like stack ranking exercise, an Amazon PR exercise that we did, all sorts of stuff. And we eventually came upon Outlier. Of course, most of our investors were like, okay, guys, like smart. I agree about the revenue, get there fast. A few of our investors were like, what are you doing? Like, we invested in Colorcast and literally we're trying to close around right now about Colorcast. But fortunately, we launched it and it just took right away. And so those investors are now like, oh, good job. Congrats. Like, so they always believed in you, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so. But honestly, if it hadn't took, the conversation would be like very different. So I'm very thankful for that, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how the pivot came to be. And we've kept the team super, super lean with really, really high performers. Yeah. And we're just going deeper and deeper down the sports betting rabbit hole and pushing it. We've done something like 80 plus app updates in the last 9 months. Like our team's pushing code like twice a week. So yeah, that's pretty much all of it.
Yeah, that's sick. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that took a lot of psychological conviction and just like self-belief and belief in the team. Cause yeah, I know it's really funny. It's like, as the founder or founding team, it's like, there's a greater risk, not of loss, but of not achieving like business potential, just in the typical way like investment deals are constructed. And so I feel like founders in general, like our risk appetites and like we have closer access to the data, like are way higher than the investor base.
So true.
You know,
So
and
true.
like our visions are way longer, right? Because we're able to see beyond the P&L, right?
Yep.
You know, it's interesting. Like sometimes you just have to be like, fuck, like if this is wrong, like we're fucked and I'm going to look like an idiot.
Yep.
But I feel compelled to make this bet. Like I just have to.
Exactly. Like it's exactly what it was for us. So like when we were looking at ColorCast versus, well, at that time, to be named Outlier,
Yeah.
we were like, okay, what is the clearer path to revenue here? We already had a user base. We literally had no product.
Yeah.
For Outlier, literally nothing. And some of the code for the APIs, all that, but whatever, basically nothing. And we were like, okay, we can either try to grow ColorCast to some unknown number of users, 300,000 monthlies, 1 million monthlies. I don't even know what it'll take. Or we can quite literally start from scratch, rebrand the whole company, build an entirely new product, and see if it takes.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was the decision. And we're like, I think the latter is somehow a safer bet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's crazy.
Totally. No, totally. It's like sometimes like, yeah, it's funny. Us having this conversation with a friend of mine, and she was like talking about like two decisions. One seemed more risky than the next. And, you know, like it might be intuitive for us, but it's like risk is always just one side of the decision. Like the other side is upside.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, even if this is slightly higher risk, it's like the gain towards like a path that you feel is profitable and accretive to the business is like way higher than continuing down the standard way. Right. I'm biased, but we built the company. We raised like really, 15 grand when we first started the company because we went through an incubator, but then we basically got to profitability, and then we raised like over a couple of years, and then we raised like our first like private equity Series A.
You raised after profitability?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, because practically what it actually allowed was like there was no like, if we don't raise, we run out of runway. And I think what that did for us psychologically is like we could be really methodical about like, hey, here's the path we want the business to go. What investor is aligned with the path that we want the business to take?
Nice.
Versus having to try to frame the business in a way that appealed to every investor.
That is why I want to become profitable, because for a bunch of reasons, but like the optionality and the almost like patience that it affords you is really, really, really valuable in my opinion to making good business, long-term business decisions.
Yeah, totally. And like the people with like the biggest businesses that are adding the most value, like it's like Carlos Slim, you know?
Carlos Slim.
He was like the Mexican dude who like had hold on, let me make sure this is like
okay. I'm like, should I know this guy?
Yeah, he's like a business magnate. He's got like a bunch of conglomerate.
Okay, sure.
This. Like these guys, they own their businesses. You know, they haven't sold 90% of it. But like having a strong and fundamentally strong business, I think like you then have that as an option if you want to do it. But like you're still in control. You're satisfying your customers. Like that feels really good, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, congrats, man. That's our goal is, can we get profitable to give ourselves that optionality? Yeah. Like it's choose your own destiny, make your own destiny at that point.
Totally. We're not profitable today, by the way, since we raised, obviously.
Oh, nice.
A ton of money.
You started spending harder.
Yeah, for sure. It's always like scary. Like you're like, holy shit, like this is so much. But you know, the bet is like you want to invest in the company's growth, you want to take market share, like this. And so I love our guys. They always make fun of me because like I'm never wearing like a nice clothes. And they're obviously like super buttoned up, like MBA, like league educated.
These are the private equity guys.
Yeah. My guy and gal. Yeah, Robert and Laura. They're sweet. What do you want to share about Outlier in terms of like follow-on product plans? Like where's the business going, maybe more tactically?
So big thing on deck is something that we're going to release in like 4 weeks. I'll preface that. I literally preface every single one of my answers, I feel like. But okay, so we have a product now called Outlier Premium, and it is actually, let me take one more step back. The betting landscape. There are two better types. There are what are called bottoms up bettors and top down bettors. Bottoms up bettors are the sports bettors that look at all the stats and know a lot about LeBron James and think that they have edge over the sports books by looking at the stats, knowing how LeBron plays, knowing how we'll match up against so-and-so. Again, looks at all the historic data, makes the bet. That is what we've been catering to date. That's what we call Outlier Premium. Very stats heavy, without feeling overwhelming. Graphic representations of different matchup scenarios, all sorts of stuff. We cater to the bottoms up better. Awesome. That's how we've been growing. The second type of better is what's called a top down better. The top down better doesn't give a damn about LeBron. They might not even know who LeBron James is. Their whole strategy for betting is looking at price discrepancies between sports books or having it's basically like a Wall Street trader where they are like chart mystics, right? Like they know, okay, with 1 hour left before tip off, I know that there's going to be a price move upwards on this line. So if I can pick the line off now, I'm beating the quote unquote closing line value. Or they know that this bet has particular expected value because, it's priced this way on one book and priced dissimilarly on the other 5 books. So that's the top down folks. We're about to release a product that caters very much to the top down folks. Everything from a product related to expected value betting. We even have an arbitrage product where it's like, okay, you can get, the Cowboys money line on FanDuel. You can take the Eagles money line on DraftKings, and no matter what, you're going to win $50. Right? So it's very much just like odds comparison, line shopping, looking for inefficiencies in the market, etc. We're releasing that product in about 4 weeks, and it's going to be significantly higher priced than what our current product is. So the whole team's been working on that and really excited to get that out. As a general proposition, I think that the way that we want to evolve the product and the business is to keep leaning further and further into the pro bettors. We started with like an intermediate better, and now we're going like more and more and more and more and more pro, with the intention of then eventually going very novice.
Right.
And the reason we're doing it that way is because the intermediates and the pros give us really great product feedback because they understand sports betting a hell of a lot better than the novice. So it allows us to iterate on the product a lot more intelligently than if we just went after novices right away. But then the other thing too is it socially validates the product when we do go to the novice.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, all of the smart bettors are already using it, but now we've made it really simple for you. So it's kind of like, and I've never really used this analogy before, but it's as if we want to build E-Trade or a Bloomberg terminal before we build Robinhood.
Yeah, totally.
So that's sort of the way we're like thinking about product right now, and thinking about like the development of the business. And I think that'll set us up nice in the long term. But yeah, that's kind of the newest product coming down.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where can people find Outlier on the interwebs, and where can people find you on LinkedIn? If you're still dropping startup ideas, people will still.
I'm not honestly. The only reason I'm not dropping startup ideas is because I feel like my investors will be like, stay focused. But I still have them.
That's how you build a community. Like,
yeah, maybe you're right.
How important is personal brand? Like, as an exec, it's like super important.
It really. I feel like I spend honestly, a lot of time doing that. I feel like people mute me on LinkedIn now, but whatever.
Taylor's on my ass every fucking day. He's like, post more on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Honestly, by the way, just a quick aside, awesome hire. Like Taylor rocks. Like he is a networking genius. Content genius. So,
yeah, and he's chill.
Yeah, and he's a cool dude and plays hockey. So, but all the soft skills, he's just oozing soft skills.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Evan Kirkham. You can find Outlier 2 ways. You can, or on any social, we're at outlier.bet, DOT bet, outlier.bet. Or you can find us on the web at outlier.bet, or you can just find us in the App Store, Outlier. So
Cool.
yeah, that's and then also I should say this: 7-day free trial. So sign up, check it out. But then actually most importantly is we are like hyper focused on feedback. Even though we've like done well and we feel like we're in a good spot, we always want more feedback. Like it would be a great day if we got 100 tickets with feedback. Like that would be an amazing day. So we want more of that.
Awesome. Well, Thank you, Evan. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks.
You're listening to the Founder to Founder podcast, powered by Gun.io's Frontier Network. We release a new episode every Thursday morning, so be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you stream your music. Please leave us a review and share with your friends. You can follow us online at The Frontier Pod, or drop us a line at team@gun.io to get in touch about hiring world-class tech talent.